listening to you.
Very nice, my preciouses. Very good. You all improve every day.
Thank you, Professor.
And now for today's lesson. We will learn about the relation between the noun and the verbs that relates to them. Open your Smeagol Spell grammar books to page 33,016. Yes. You should all see on the left page that today's lesson should be on the study of the capitalization in the titles of movies, books, and fishes, we mean plays. You should also see that we crossed out that section and in the margin changed the lesson to the study of the direct object. So we want you all to actually disregard both of those, as our lesson today is strictly on the relation between the noun and the verbs that relates to them. Today's lesson is the same as always. Read and ask any questions that you may or may not have.
Yes,
Professor.
All the students turned to their books and began reading. Professor Smeagol took a deep breath.
Yes. Boy, we needs to rest.
Professor Smeagol dropped into his chair and proceeded to remove a pair of headphones from a drawer in his desk and began to play music from his MP3 player.
Through the fire and the flames we carry on!
Professor.
Yes, Parthen?
Excuse me, sir, but it's a little hard to think.
Oh, we can help you with that. Our psychiatric help class is held every other Saturday. We'll enjoy having you there. Carry on, my preciouses.
Professor Smeagol turned back to his music. The class continued reading, and Professor Smeagol continued listening until the bell rang after the allotted 30-minute reading period.
Yes. All right, class, time's up. Put away your Smeagol spells for today. As usual, we will now discuss what we have learned today and concentrate on the direct elements of learning apprehension you may have the mental capacity to integrate. Now, as you all hopefully read, the main parts of today's lesson was about the relation between the noun and the verb that relates to them, which is essentially this. Since the nouns and the verbs must match in quantity, the noun must be plural when the verb is plural, but the verb must be single when the noun is married. Simply stated, the quantity of the noun is directly proportionate to the base of the exponential power of the number of the verb, but the quantity of the verb is not similarly encompassed by identical factors of numeral relation to the noun, except when both the noun and the verb, when both accurately linked in numeral proportions to each other, maintain that proportion throughout all attempts made to sever the previously stated relationship between the noun and the verb. Understand, everybody?
Nay.
Professor Smeagol, isn't the relation between the noun and the verb as follows? When the noun is plural, the verb must also be plural, and when the noun is singular, the verb must also be singular?
It's nasty. That is, of course, one way to state it, yes, but then again, each is entitled to their own opinions.
But isn't that true?
Well, yes, maybe. As we said, each is entitled to their own opinions, so we'll have time to speculate about it later.
Professor Smeagol, I'm sure today's lesson is very beneficial, but I'm much more interested in the laws of the behavior of a bow that you presented in your armouring class yesterday. I have been figuring, and I was wondering if the angle of the curve of a bow is directly related to the length of the bow if it remains straight, minus the length of the string after the bow is bent, yet in keeping with the level of flexibility of the bowstring and bow material, possibly of ash or yew, together producing a draw weight of, say, 35 pounds?
Why do you ask so many questions?
Professor Smeagol was becoming quite annoyed, but he was proceeding with his lecture until he noticed two boys in the middle of the class of students who were apparently not paying much attention.
Hey, Meldroth, what do you think about this new track thing knife I traded yesterday?
Well, it's relatively decent, but I'm sure it's a mutton chop compared to this one I bargained this morning.
Yes, what bargaining can get nowadays.
What, Dorthig, Meldroth, is there an issue? The answer is yes, because I have one with excessive talkingses and... Are those Gondolin blades? The kind that we doesn't ever permits in our classes? Because if they are, we will have no choice but to...
Oh no, Professor. These aren't Gondolin blades. We would never dishonor your classroom by bringing something that is forbidden into it. We're heartbroken that you may have thought so, and that your trust in us may have almost been shaken. Nay, these are Drakthang blades that we have obtained with ethically skillful resources. It is our fervent wish, Professor, that you do not worry or strain yourself about it.
Oh, we're so touched by your concern for our stress level. We're glad someone cares. Most do not care if we be stressed. But we see you nice boys' care, and we shan't disappoint you. As long as they are not Gondolins' knives, we will try not to stress ourselves about them. And say, let's have a closer look at them.
Professor Smeagol's eyes glinted with interest and wonder as he got up from his desk and swaggled down the center aisle to the desks of Dorthig and Meldroth. The two boys handed him their knives, and Professor Smeagol fingered them as elegantly as he was capable of, turning them over in his long hands and staring at the hooked barbs that lined both flat sides of the blades, and the cracked wooden handles wrapped in shaggy twine-like string.
Say, boys, these things are right nice. These are the kinds of knives we wouldn't mind getting by hooks or crooks, yes. The blades is very fantastic, though we wouldn't give much for the...
Excuse me, sir.
Oh, yes, the mentally challenged one. What is it, my precious?
Not to seem rude, sir, but shouldn't we be continuing the class? Although I admit, I myself am no lover of school, but I do admit that learning, at least to some extent, is important, especially the learning of trades and of that ilk. The time periods needed to learn these matters are important, and would probably be better off not wasted.
Professor Smeagol's excitement faded into embarrassment as the significance of Parthain's words slowly progressed through his mind.
What's the matter, Parthane? You in a hurry or something?
What? No, well, maybe he's right, Durthig. Which means, well, it might make sense that we doesn't waste our time on learning. Which means on engaging in extraneous activities that diverge from the standards of learning parameters needed to learn the things of, as such, well, as the trades. So, yes, thank you for the suggestion, Parthane. Yes, it was most valuable. And so, now to return to the matters at hand, to the culmination of class.
The professor clumsily handed the Drakthing knives back to Durthig and Meldruff, and sheepishly turned and swaggled back up the center aisle to his desk. He then took a deep breath and turned back to the group of students.
And so that concludes our class for today, my preciouses. We all to our closing statements and declarations of allegiance.
I declare allegiance to Gondor, to its beauty and spirit, from its war-ravaged mountains to its peaceful tumbling rivers, for the continued freedom and light of this world.
I declare allegiance to Isengard, to its waxing might and power, from its orc-filled mountain walls to its cold stone dungeons, for the imminent dominance and power over all.
I declare allegiance to Erebor, to its proud wealth and might, from its stone-carven arches to its wealth-flooded halls, for the continued wealth and strength of us.
I declare allegiance to the Shire, to its simpleness and hardiness, from its rolling grass hilltops to its home-filled hobbit holes, for the continued warmth and goodness of us all.
I declare allegiance to Moria, to its silent wonder and reflection, from its soaring stone chambers to its mithril-studded wells, for the continued paths of memorial and meditation for us all.
I declare allegiance to Rivendell, to its serenity and grace, from its gentle white waterfalls to its green mossy valley walls, for the continued peace and elegance in the world.
I declare allegiance to Rohan, to its skill and valor, from its rolling grassy plains to its golden roofs of Meduseld, for the continued hope and virtue of the world.
Very well, my preciouses. Class for today is dismissed. You may all now go and fare as you will.
All the students then, after a moment of thoughtfulness, turned to their books and tools, putting them into leather satchels and bags, and then flinging them across their backs and headed for the door.
Farewell, Professor.
Bye.
Bye, Professor.
Goodbye, Professor.
Bye.
Farewell, Professor.
Farewell,
Professor.
Farewell, Professor.
Bye. Yes, bye. And until we meet tomorrow.
The last of the students filed through the door, and the door was closed behind them.
Gun! Smeagol is free!